Welcome everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for our webinar, Playing to Learn, Hosting Online Games with iClicker. Before we start the presentation, I have a couple of quick announcements. First, we've muted everyone to keep out background noise, but we do want to hear from you. If you'd like to ask a question or give us any feedback, please feel free to type it into the question box on the right side of your screen. We will be monitoring those questions as they come in, but we will be saving questions for a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. We do have a much larger audience than usual, so if we don't get to your question in the webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with you via email after. I also wanted to let you know that we are recording the webinar, and we'll email you a link to the recording as well as a slide deck in the next few days. My name is Jeanette Gordon, the Senior Manager of Institutional Customer Experience, and I am very excited to introduce today's presenter, Lindsey Thomas, who is the iClicker Training and Documentation Manager. Take it away, Lindsey.
Great, thanks Jeanette for that introduction, and thanks everyone for joining us today. So in today's webinar, we are going to start just by quickly going over why you might want to host games with iClicker. We'll be going over some best practices for online games. Since this is a webinar about games, most of our time together will be interactive. You'll have a chance to participate as a contestant in 3 games that we've put together for you: Balance the Bars, Jeopardy, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. If you already have an instructor account with us, just use the same email and password to sign into the iClicker Reef app as a student. Just a heads up, the first game won't happen until a couple of slides from now, so you do still have time to join our course in iClicker Reef. And I have the course information up here on the screen on the left-hand side. If you don't have an account and can't get one set up in time, that's okay too. Feel free to focus on just watching the webinar, and we'll be sending you the recording later. At the end, we'll be going over some additional resources for iClicker compatible games, and then you'll have a chance to ask your own questions in our Q&A session. All right, so why play games with iClicker? While iClicker may not have been designed with the specific purpose of facilitating games, it was built for student engagement. We wanted to highlight today some creative ways that you can use iClicker as a lightweight solution for online games to complement our main polling, quizzing, and attendance features. These features help encourage student participation and attendance, and so can game-based learning. With iClicker, each student is able to have a voice, and that can extend to games so everyone can play and not only the most competitive students are engaged. We know how hard it can be to connect with your students, especially if you suddenly find yourself teaching classes online. Adding games to the mix can help change things up in your class and keep it interesting for students. Finally, because iClicker works with all kinds of content and all kinds of software, it is flexible enough to use in games as well. You're not limited to asking questions in PowerPoint, as we'll show in a moment. So, best practices for playing games with iClicker. Today, we're using our mobile-optimized iClicker Cloud Instructor software. However, the same games could be played in our other iClicker Classic Instructor software. If you're teaching online with the iClicker Classic software, just make sure you enable the Reef app for students to use their mobile devices. We are using the polling activity type that is central to both Cloud and Classic softwares. In case you're not familiar yet with iClicker, polls allow everyone to respond to the same question at the same time, so you can get immediate feedback in live or synchronous class sessions. Games can be played individually or with teams, although if you're teaching online, it may be easiest to play without teams. You don't have to have winners and losers in a traditional sense. You could award a few bonus points to the class as a whole if the majority of students get the majority of game questions right. You can also choose to award points only for participation, which iClicker can automatically calculate for you based on your polling settings. If you do choose a winner, it can take some time to tally up scores in iClicker, so some instructors will announce winners the following class session after playing a game. Whether you choose a winner or not, it does help your game feel more game-like to indicate correct answers as you play. So students get that immediate gratification of knowing whether their answer was right. So that's what we'll be showing you in the games that we play today. Playing games is supposed to keep students engaged, just like regular polling. So we do recommend limiting game time to 15 to 20 minutes out of an entire class session. You can set a countdown timer in iClicker to make sure you aren't spending too much time on any one game question. You also might want to limit game time to once every week or two. Finally, it can help to have your games tied to course content and objectives whenever possible, aside from icebreaker games at the start of a new term or exam review type games. All right, is everyone ready to play? Let the games begin. So the first game we've prepared for you today is what we call Balancing the Bars. If you've joined us for any other iClicker webinars, you may recognize this little game because it's one of our favorite icebreaker games to play with iClicker. Balancing the Bars helps students get used to using the iClicker Reef app in a very low stakes way, and it helps them see how they can change their answers as many times as they'd like while a polling question is still running. So to play this game, I already have my iClicker toolbar loaded here on the screen. So it's just going to float over everything else on my screen. And I'm going to start a multiple choice polling question and keep the results window open for about a minute. And you all have that minute to balance the bars. So we get an equal number of A, B, C, D, and E responses, and you'll see them all come in real time. So it requires a little bit of cooperation and communication somehow without being able to communicate. You're doing a pretty good job. I got more for A. More for D. Whoa, a lot for C. Almost there, 10 seconds. Can you keep it balanced? All right, that's pretty good. All right, great job, everyone. I hope that was fun and gave you some time to just get used to using the iClicker Reef app. So the next game that we have for you, if you weren't able to join for the first one, no worries, you still have time to join for the second one. So our second game is a modified version of Jeopardy! This is using the free website jeopardylabs.com. So this can be a great resource for games that could be played with any academic discipline, and your students will recognize, sort of the feel of Jeopardy, even if you have to kind of modify the game for your own course needs. So I chose an existing travel-themed game board since I'm really missing travel right now. And I modified it slightly so I can show you how all the different iClicker polling question types can be used in a Jeopardy style game. So we're just going to play one category with no teams. So just you can get a feel for how this would work in your own classes. So we're going to start with an easy $100 question, and we're going to use the trains category. And this is a short answer question, so I'm just going to choose that from my toolbar and click play. So short answer for 100 points. This is the largest passenger train company in the US. So you should have on your screen a screenshot of this, this question, or this clue, I should say. And make sure you try to submit your answer in the form of a question, just like with Jeopardy! So what is? You should have 140 characters, and make sure you just click the send button to submit your answer. All right, I still see responses coming in. Give everyone about 10 more seconds. Okay, I think that's good. And let's show the answer. All right, what is Amtrak? So now I'm going to open up my results, and I see we have 8 for Amtrak. There's a lot of results. I can quickly go through and see how, other spellings could also work. So I'll just do, a few of these. I'm sorry if I'm not getting yours to indicate that it's correct, but I think everyone pretty much got that. One other thing to mention with short answer This could work for your game or it might not work, but you can turn your short answer responses into a word cloud just by clicking on the ABC button here. So you can see the words what and Amtrak were the most commonly used. Okay, so to continue, we have trains for 200. And this one I modified into a multiple choice format, just to show you don't have to make every Jeopardy question a short answer question. So for 200 points, these tracks and train cars in Florida see more passengers than any other annually. What is A, Carol Baskin's Big Cat Express, B, Sunrail, C, Walt Disney World Monorail, D, Brightline, or E, Royal Palm Railway? I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds only this time. Okay, and let me reveal the response. So what is the Walt Disney World Monorail? All right, great job, everyone. As you can see, I'm able to just indicate the correct answers just by opening up this results chart and clicking on the correct answer. And the correct answer turns green. Okay, next up we have trains for 300. So this is an example of our target question, which is my own personal favorite. It's a visual question, so you'll be able to answer by clicking or tapping on the image to indicate your response. So for 300 points, in this city that appears on the map, you can find stray dogs that have learned to commute from the suburbs to the city. They reach the city, scavenge for food, and then catch the train home in the evening. So if you need to, you can pinch and zoom to make the image bigger on your device, especially if you're on a phone. And your response should show up as a little dot. Just make sure you click the send button to submit your answer when you're happy with it. All right, I'll give everyone maybe 10, 15 more seconds. You'll see we're missing about like 20 responses, I think. All right, I'm gonna stop it here and reveal the correct answer. So what is Moscow? Fun fact. So I'm gonna show the results. As you can see here, it's just like a heat map of all of the different responses that you all have given. If you need to, you can always, wait and grade this later after class. It's a little hard to see on, because it's just kind of an image within an image here. But I think it's around here. So you just draw a box around the correct area, and everything inside that box will be marked as correct. All right, and our final question is numeric. So you can respond with a number. For 400 points, it takes this many minutes for the super fast JRN 700 train in Japan to accelerate from 0 to 168 miles per hour. And I'll give everyone maybe 10 more seconds. I think that's good. And the correct answer, what is 3? Let's see if anyone gave me the correct answer. So I can sort these, should be able to, just by clicking on column. There we go, 3. So 8 people got that correct. All right. Good job, everyone. I hope that was fun. So just to recap, we built this game at jeopardylabs.com by cloning and editing an existing board. So you can search by popular topics such as icebreakers to find boards that other people have created, or you can create your own from scratch. All you need to do is just create a password for your board and then make sure you bookmark the link, because I don't think they send you an email with it. Your category names, dollar values, clues, and answers are all fully editable. So you see this little screen here, that's kind of what it looks like. You can even embed images, videos, and math equations into your clues and answers. That's what I did with my target question and the map of Europe. You can remove rows or columns to make the game board a little bit smaller, and you can also move everything around on the board as needed. I made mine a little bit smaller just to accommodate my 4 question types. So I asked one question for each iClicker question type that we have. So that's multiple choice, numeric, short answer, and target. With online games where everyone is participating with the iClicker Reef app, it is definitely fun to mix it up with all of the different question types that are available. If your students are using physical iClicker remotes, say in a face-to-face rather than online class, multiple choice could be the easiest and fastest response type, or it could be the only response type available, depending on the model that your students are using, the model of iClicker remote. Finally, a tip that I found helpful as I was putting this board together was to put the question type and the point or dollar value at the very beginning of the clue, as you can see here with multiple choice and 200 points. So the question type helps me when I'm running the game, so I can quickly select the right question type from this iClicker toolbar menu. And then putting the point value in there will help with scoring if you choose to play it this way, and I'll show you that in a moment. So playing the game, again, these are just sort of ideas that we had for playing, but I'm sure there are many other ways that you could play a Jeopardy style game. You can play the game with teams, but we found that individual or no teams mode works best for an online setting. You may want to start with an easy $100 level clue to ease students into the game. You might also want to consider selecting clues yourself instead of determining a winner for each question who would then select the next clue. Finally, you could continue selecting clues within the same category until the majority of the class gets the question wrong, and then move on to a new category. So for scoring the game, again, these are just suggestions. But as you play the game with the iClicker Cloud desktop software, that's this little toolbar up here, you can select the correct answers just using the results chart, and simply by clicking on the response that you want to indicate is correct. So there can be multiple ones. It's just anything that you click on, it'll turn green to indicate that it's correct, and you can click again to make it incorrect. So there can be multiple correct answers. And then at the iClicker Cloud Instructor website, this is something that maybe is an optional step that you don't want to take, or maybe you want to do this after you end class for the day, like in between class meetings, or maybe you want to have a TA help out with this. But what you could do is if you wanted to match the point values of each iClicker question to the point value that was on the Jeopardy board, you can go into your iClicker session history at the iClicker Cloud Instructor website and just update the point value for each question to match the dollar value just by typing in. As you can see here, this question that we played internally had 2 correct responses, and we just typed in 100 points for both. And this is where it helps to have that point value in your clue, so you have it right in front of you. iClicker takes a screenshot of your entire screen, so you'll have a record of all of the questions you asked. All right, so we're not going to do the full scoring of the game that we played today, but if you wanted to choose a winner, you could figure it out by sorting point values from highest to lowest on the iClicker Cloud Instructor website. This is what we did here. We just sorted in the total column from highest to lowest. This is what we did when we played Jeopardy internally, and we picked the top 3 contestants to move on to Final Jeopardy. What we did was we gave the Final Jeopardy clue in our PowerPoint, so you could use a presentation software or a Word document, whatever you want. And then we found a music, the Jeopardy music on YouTube to use as our timer. I should also mention that iClicker has its own timer. If you want to set your timer to count down, from 30 seconds, and you could do that from your toolbar here too. So contestants could write out their wagers and then their responses. They could do that on paper and just hold them up to like the video at the same time if you're using video conferencing software. Or you could always start a numeric poll in iClicker to get the finalists' wagers first, and then a short answer poll to collect their responses after you've given the clue. And this is just an idea that we had, but the winner could select the prize that could benefit the entire class. So that could be maybe 5 extra bonus points on the next quiz or a free pass on a homework assignment. All right, ready for our next game? Our third and final game is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And we created this at superteachertools.us. It's another free site. And for this game, we're going to show how you can play with a contestant while still allowing everyone to participate on their own devices. So I'd like to introduce today's contestant, Colin Williams, who is one of our client relationship specialists. Colin, are you there?
I'm here.
Great. Okay, so everyone in the audience, you can still enter your responses in iClicker Reef, just like you did with Jeopardy. Colin will be using this kind of poll the audience lifeline to inform his response, and it's ultimately up to him to give the final answer. All right, so with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, they're all going to be multiple choice, and I just modified this down to a 4-question game for the sake of time today. So for our first question, so you should see this now in iClicker Reef. Where do you author iClicker questions? Is it A, PowerPoint, B, Google Slides, C, Keynote, or D, all of the above and more? I'll give maybe 10 more seconds. Okay. All right, the audience says D. Colin, is that your final answer too?
I am going to go with yes, D is my final answer.
Okay, great. Yay, that was correct. I'll just mark that here. Okay, next question. iClicker works with which of the following video conferencing tools? A, Zoom, B, MS Teams or Microsoft Teams, C, Google Meet or Google Hangouts, and D, all of the above and more. Okay, I think that's about as many responses as we'll get. So it looks like the audience is going with D. Colin, is that also your final answer?
Yeah, it is. It looks like the audience knows what they're talking about here, so I'm going to go with D as my final answer.
Okay, good. Very good. And let me mark that here. Okay. So for $500,000, which of the following does iClicker share with students so that they can respond to your polls? Is it A, lecture video, B, Scantron, C, screenshot of instructor's entire screen, or D, answer key? Hopefully it's a little tougher than the last two. Let's see if we can get to around 80 responses again. Okay. So the audience is going with C, screenshot of instructor's screen. Colin, what do you think?
I think they're on it again. I'm going to go with D as my final answer.
Very good. Everyone's on a roll today. Okay, final question for $1 million in iClicker dollars. iClicker is releasing a feature to support blank courses for fall 2020. Is it A, elementary school, B, asynchronous, C, lab, D, physical education? Getting close. Okay, gonna stop. Wow, okay. Everyone's pretty unanimous on this. Colin, what do you think?
Yeah, so with all of the classes now having to be offline, asynchronous is a great answer. That is my final answer.
Yes, indeed. I just wanted to give you all the benefit of the full sound effects there. So, just to recap, we created this game at superteachertools.us/millionaire. You can use existing games here but from what I saw, they were sort of more geared towards elementary school teachers. But once you create your game, you'll create a password and then you'll be emailed a link to access that game at a later date. All you have to do is type your questions and answers and select the correct answer for each question, as you see here on the left-hand side. Keep in mind there are multiple choice questions only, and just like the real game, there are only 4 answer choices, A through D. So iClicker Reef is going to give students 5 answer choices, A through E, but just let students know not to select the E option in iClicker Reef. You can modify the point values as needed, and you can include up to 15 questions. I only had 4 just to keep things running pretty quickly, so I did adjust my point values to still end with $1 million question. We thought of a couple different ways you could play this type of game. You could have everyone respond individually on their own devices for the whole time, and then the whole class could move forward until you get to a question that the majority can't answer correctly. So just like the real game, it's kind of like sudden death elimination. What we did was more of a hybrid approach, so everyone still responded to questions individually, and then we had Cullen participate as a contestant and use the audience responses as a sort of constant lifeline. So we only had 1 contestant, but you could perhaps select a new contestant once the original contestant gives you an incorrect answer. Some options for scoring the game, and again, these are just ideas, but for the first one, if everyone's participating individually, then perhaps the whole class could win if the whole class makes it to a certain point. So if you manage to get to question 7 out of 10 questions that you'd prepared, then everyone could get bonus points. Another option is if you play like we did and have a contestant, then the winning contestant could choose from one of several prize options that benefit the whole class. Okay, that's it for games. So I did have one more poll. We did want to hear from you in case any of you have your own creative games that you're playing with your students using iClicker, or maybe even not using iClicker yet. Maybe you have an idea of a game that you'd like to try with your students in the future. So I'm going to open up a short answer poll, and please feel free to take some time and write any suggestions that you have in the short answer text box in iClicker Reef, and then I'll share some of the results as they come in. Pictionary, yeah, that's a good one. Flashcard game with videos. Question of the day, Battleship. Family Feud, yeah, I've seen that one too.
Yeah, and for Family Feud, you can use this ahead of time as well to kind of take with the short answer questions to build up your Family Feud type of game.
Yeah, for sure. Have the students write up answers and the class votes on the best one. That's a good one. It's tic-tac-toe by splitting the class into? It's a good question. I haven't heard of tic-tac-toe personally, but where's Waldo? Games to teach Italian as foreign language with chrome dice. That's cool. If students could collect some kind of badges or have a game that accumulates progress over the semester. Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, so in this webinar, we kind of focused more on game-based learning just by including some quick, easy games that are compatible with iClicker. But I am going to share a couple of resources if you're looking more for gamification of like your entire course with badges and quests and like leaderboards that go through the entire term. We have a webinar recording that I can share with you that's a little bit more gamification focused. So, all right, Trivial Pursuit, yeah. I'm glad to hear that you're loving it so far. All right, I think I'm going to stop here just for the sake of time, but thanks so much for sharing your ideas and your feedback. So we've covered a lot today, but there are so many other game options still out there that we didn't have time to cover. I just wanted to put together a list of helpful links to the sites that we used today, as well as a few others that we know of, and we can definitely add to this list with some of your ideas. We'll be including the full URLs in our follow-up email, so don't worry about writing these down for now. So we'll be sending that follow-up email in the next couple days. So Jeopardy and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, those are the links for the games that we used. I know for sure you can also find templates and other sites as well. There are a couple of good sites for PowerPoint-based games, so Technologic and RustNet Creative. I know Technologic was created by an ESL teacher, and then RustNet Creative, they're like macro-enabled PowerPoints for things like Family Feud and also, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They're very slick with like, sound effects and animations and things. So this is a gamification idea that I was thinking of, but Ray Villanueva from the UT San Antonio Anthropology Department has hosted a couple of webinars for us in the past. So I'll be including links to both of his webinars. One is kind of like Jeopardy focused with like teams, and the other one is some other original game ideas. So if you're looking for more social science-based games or tips for playing with teams, I definitely recommend watching one of these recordings that we'll be linking to in our follow-up. Finally, economics instructors, I hear, often use experiments or simulations to demonstrate key concepts, and you don't always need a fancy game board to do this. So the eConport site that we'll be linking to, the full URL, it has an experiment to illustrate supply and demand using clickers. You can also illustrate game theory principles with iClicker, such as Prisoner's Dilemma. The image here for this tacit coordination game is from our author, Eric Chang, who asks students to respond to these multiple choice and short answer questions as a simple game to illustrate tacit coordination. So the right answer will be the most popular answer and not the technically correct answer. So for example, the winning answer for question 5 would probably be Sydney, because many students assume Sydney is the capital of Australia, even though that's not correct. So the student has to kind of weigh whether they want to put the answer they know is correct versus what they think will be the most popular answer. And finally, here at Macmillan Learning, our econ team is working on some activity guides that can help scaffold your in-class activities, and iClicker questions are sometimes built into those activities. So if you're interested in learning more, please let us know in the questions box or respond to our follow-up email, and we'll be sure to send you more information on those resources. Okay, so we've covered a lot today, and I hope you've had some fun with us. We have set aside about 10 minutes for questions, so if there's anything you'd like to ask, just put your question into the questions window of GoToWebinar. And Colin will be fielding questions for us. So have we had any questions come in yet?
Yeah, so one of the big questions that we've had is for the cost of using iClicker Reef. So for instructors, just because as an FYI from the instructor portion of this, is that there is no fee for instructors to use the iClicker platform. No matter which version you use, specifically iClicker Cloud, what we're using today, So as an instructor, you set your account up as an instructor, and the reason why we have you set that up first, if possible, is because you can use those same credentials to go in and participate as a student in your course without having to pay any kind of subscription fee. So that way you can, test things out on your end. If you go through iClicker.com or you use the app on your phone, the prices that we have for subscriptions, the most common one that students use is the 6-month subscription. So from the day that they start or the day that they pay, it starts 180 days, and that's $15.99. And then we have options of 1 year, 2 year, or 4 year subscriptions. And basically, the longer they pay, the more of a savings they get over time. So if it is a freshman and there's going to be Reef used on course or on campus for quite a while, the 4 year subscription might be better for them because they are saving 60% versus paying each individual semester. So for 1 year, it's $24.99. For 2 year, it's $34.99, and for 4 year, it's $49.99. And again, for one semester for 6 months is $15.99.
Great, thanks, Colin. And another thing to add is just that if you have like a Macmillan Learning rep that you're already working with, you're already using a Macmillan Learning text, definitely check in with them to see what kind of like package options are available, because you can often get Reef at a discount to your students. And then also if you have an iClicker administrator or like teaching and learning center on campus that has iClicker resources, check with them and see if maybe iClicker is already free. They might have already licensed it for the entire university.
Yep. And also to check in with bookstores, because some bookstores have already got these bundles put together, and they can help you out as well. Another question that we've gotten quite a bit is about what the asynchronous version is going to look like.
Yeah. So I don't have it available to show to you yet, but I've seen some kind of preliminary designs, and it's going to be basically you take all of the iClicker questions that you maybe would have asked in a live class session, and you put them in a document or put them in a slide deck, basically as long as you can turn it into a PDF format with each question on its own page of the PDF. You then upload the PDF to iClicker Cloud. There will be a new assignments tab in the iClicker Cloud instructor website, and you set the correct answers ahead of time. Just set what the question type is, so students are able to respond appropriately in iClicker Reef. And then when students get to the lecture video for that day, they'll have the assignment available in iClicker Reef, and they can just kind of work through at their own pace, as long as it's turned in by a certain due date that you set.
Yeah, so obviously our team has been working very quickly to try to get that out as soon as possible, because we know there are so many people now off campus and that won't possibly be back during the fall either. So we are working to have that out as soon as possible. And just worth mentioning that we do put out our monthly newsletter, and so information on that will be in that newsletter as well. It'll be you can sign up for that newsletter. It's iClicker.com, and Lindsey, you may know better than I where
I can show it real
point
quick.
to on that.
Okay, so from iClicker.com, and this is also helpful to know, there's a support tab from our homepage up at the top, and this will bring you to the support site. So from here, you can search our knowledge base, articles, videos, other resources, sign up for a training if you want more of an introductory session. And then down here, there's a link to sign up for our monthly newsletter. So this just comes at the beginning of every month. We're not going to like spam you with a ton of emails, but this is the best way to just sort of keep up with what updates we're coming out with. So definitely feel free to sign up for this.
Yeah, and we put quite a bit of information there. And I will also, just as a reminder, that we are recording this, so this training will go out with a lot of the information that Lindsey's mentioning, but you'll be able to rewatch this as well once it's processed and out. So we'll get that out as soon as we can on that. Just to jump back really quickly about the payments, just so you know, when you pay it, when we say it's per semester, it's any courses that they have during that semester are included. So it's not a per course a price. So especially there are some institutions that use quite a bit on campus. So a student paying for one semester can use it in 5 courses and not have any issues there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more question.
All right.
Once we're caught up.
Okay, let's see. Lindsey, you may know better than I do on this, but with asynchronous, is there a timer, or is it like the quizzing where they can work at their own pace? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's basically the instructor sets the date that the assignment will be available. So it's a little bit different from our current polling and quizzing features where you start it in class and end it at the end of class. So you just set the date that it becomes available, and then on that date that it becomes available, students will start to have access to the assignment, and then you set a due date. So they just have to finish by that due date. They can have several days to complete the assignment. Yeah, great question.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to say our time is up. If we weren't able to answer your questions, we will be following up via email shortly. In the next couple of days, we'll also be sending an email with a recording of this webinar and slide deck to everyone who attended. If you think of any additional questions later, feel free to respond directly to our follow-up email, and we will get you the answers that you need. From all of us at iClicker, thanks so much for joining, and we hope you'll have fun using iClicker in your courses.